give me reduced tuition.
I assume, when we applied, I don't remember that, but you did put your address, and the out-of-state people put their out-of-state address, and the people that are in Texas illegally put a Texas address, so I guess it just gets overlooked. I assume maybe if they put an Oklahoma address, they'd have to pay out-of-state tuition, but again, I'm just speculating here, and that is something we will have very firm questions, hopefully by the end of the meeting, but for sure by next week.
Thank you.
Point of information, it's based on what high school you graduate from.
Can you repeat that?
Based on what high school you graduate
The
from?
senator will be advised that I must first recognize
I'm
you.
sorry. I thought
Yeah,
you
state
had-
your point.
It's based on what high school you graduate from. The high school is in Texas, and you're recognized as someone who receives in-state tuition.
Thank you.
I could have just solved that whole problem.
Senator Pena.
Aaron Junior College of Geosciences. I have a question about Texas. I mean, they do allow for illegal immigrants who have completed high school at least 3 years of public education in Texas. There's a Senate bill. And the reason I know this is because I actually have a friend who will be attending A&M in the fall. And he was brought by his family when he was 9 years old. And so he was in public education and he grew up in his parents' feeding system. Now, it wasn't his fault. So what are you going to do? What do you think about this Texas Senate bill that's already been passed allowing financial aid for these illegal immigrants?
If it's a passed bill, I guess we would be advised to advocate against that. That gives in-state tuition or financial aid. I guess we're not actually advocating against financial aid, which may be something we consider adding to the bill. We're just saying in-state tuition. This bill is opposed to funding anyone who's not, a resident of Texas. The idea of in-state tuition is that these people have lived here and they've paid taxes to the state. Now, people here illegally don't pay taxes. So what you run into this problem is that people that do pay taxes have less disposable income, less money to spend on college. But since their parents have been paying into this tax system, that funnels money into institutions like this. It's kind of great, you paid for a dozen years, now we're going to give you a little off to college.
May I ask something?
Brief follow-up?
Yes, please.
Yes.
So what do you suggest, for these students who have graduated high school, who have done the public education in Texas, would you say to send them back to Mexico, or would you say, what should they do?
Stay in order.
We all have a choice of where we go to college. I chose to stay here in Texas because it was economically feasible. It was really an affordable place for me to go to college. I couldn't afford to go somewhere else. Each person has to, look at all their options and figure out where they can afford to go to college. And, it's the responsibility of Texas to educate its own citizens, not necessarily everyone else. If everyone wanted to, come get in-state tuition here, eventually we'd go bankrupt. I hope that clears some questions. And if y'all would like to jump in on
Chair Thornburg.
Chair Thornburg, rules and regulations. Are you trying to say that all out-of-state students, illegal or legal, should not be able or should not have the chance to pay in-state tuition?
This isn't addressing people that are out of state, but legal U.S. citizens.
Or even legal residents of the United States, right?
Or even anyone here legally, legal resident. I'm big on the terminology, but this is just saying people that are clearly illegally.
Senator Groski-Bauer.
Grant Grossberg off campus. I'm a little bit confused, Justin. There's this gap between those who receive in-state tuition and those who don't receive in-state tuition, right? There's this money deficit, right? Do the taxpayers fulfill that deficit? Are they covered by taxpayers? Is that deficit covered by taxpayers, I should say?
Well, the idea is that taxpayers fund this public institution. People out of state, tax money,
We're a state school, so
No, that's, my question is, do taxpayers, are they the ones who are hurt by, you know, those who, I guess I should say, when you pay in-state tuition, the gap between your tuition and someone else who's out of state, that gap, is that covered by taxpayers?
Yes. In part, yes.
And let me elaborate on who else is hurt. Everyone here at this university is hurt. Because people that come here and don't pay what they should be decrease the amount of money this university has to spend.
So just a brief follow-up, please.
Keep it brief.
So the only thing this bill really affects is it says that illegal aliens can't pay the same tuition as someone who's here legally, even though there's no deficit. I mean, no one's covering it, no taxpayer covering it.
Well, there are people covering it. So simply, yes, the taxpayers do cover our tuition.
Okay, so there is a deficit that's covered.
Yes, sir.
Okay.
Point of information.
State your point.
Jody Harris, off campus. What is the difference between in and out of in-state? I mean, money-wise, what is the difference between in-state tuition and out-of-state tuition?
If you don't mind, I'd like to give the chair
I'd refer to Chair Thornburg.
Chair Thornburg, rules and regulations. I pay $35,000 about for out-of-state tuition a year.
Senator Gershengauer, for you, do you have a point?
I had a question. I was just trying to get on with it.
Thank you.
Senator Scoggins.
So we're talking about 4 times the amount of in-state tuition.
Senator Scoggins, off campus. Colleague Pulliam, what kind of research have you done such that like this would be an issue that tickles your fancy? Because if this is going to Governor Perry, I'd like to know what kind of information we have backing it.
Sure. Well, you know, there's all sorts of stuff out there. That the specific federal legislation that this is referring to is the DREAM Act. It's been introduced several times in different sessions of the federal Senate and the House of Representatives. Now, our governor actually has said that he supports this legislation, so I think it's good for his office to get something that says, hey, students at Texas A&M, your alma mater, are opposed to this. Would you like to add anything?
Senator Abernathy.
I was actually going to ask what specific bill it was.
Senator Davenport.
Withdrawn.
Senator Becerra. Senator Munson.
Hey, Munson, Little Oaks. I just would like to ask if the authors of this bill have considered the positive and negative effects to admissions that the university will take due to this passing this bill.
All right, so there's a huge long waiting list of people wanting to get in Texas A&M. And you know what? A lot of those people are legal residents of Texas, and they don't get to come here every year. And they're people that may not have enough money to go to another school, that, you know, private school, et cetera, that they could get into. They need to go to a public institution like Texas A&M. So, I mean, there's a lot of people wanting to go to school, and there's no shortage of Texas residents that have spent the first 18 years of their life dying to go to Texas A&M and believe in it.
A brief follow-up, Madam Speaker.
Keep it brief.
Will this not, or will this take into consideration students coming from out of state or even foreign countries that are coming here specifically for our great engineering program and certain colleges like that?
Can I answer that one? This bill is directed only at people who do not enter the United States or do not reside here by legal means. So anyone that came in through education visa or work visa or was a resident of the United States legally, including being a United States citizen, would not be covered under this bill.
With a minute left in Q&A, are there any? Senator Wilson?
Yeah. Wilson, College Science. Quick question. It's kind of.
Wait. Sorry, I thought there was a motion. Yeah.
Oh.
Senator Womack.
I'm just
Well, there's a minute left. I'm just
wondering where I was at on the list.
You're next. So, are there any motions on the floor?
Madam Speaker, I'm
Sure.
going to extend Q&A by 5 minutes.
There's a motion on the floor to extend Q&A by 5 minutes, multiple seconds. All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, please say nay.
Nay.
We have 5 more minutes. With that, Senator Womack.
Howdy, Kyle Womack, off question. Question's real simple. Is there a Fox News correspondent on this bill, or did they just help go?
Stay in order. The chair is going to rule that dilatory. stay in order, seriously. Senator Wilson.
Tanner was color science. I apologize, I was confused a minute ago. This is a minute point, probably doesn't affect that many students, but I'm just curious. If you're on any sort of four-year academic scholarship at A&M, then you go from out-of-state to in-state tuition. Would we still allow that to apply, or are we saying under no circumstances do they get in-state tuition?
See, this is where you're getting into a really good situation, which we do need to talk to is scholarships and financial aid. How many people does this affect? Because, you know, I guess the more underlining question would be, should someone who's here legally be getting a four-year scholarship? And we do, I mean, I don't know, that's something to discuss in committee, discuss with the authors, and consider when we make a vote.
Okay, thank you.
Senator Barron.